Hey, what's going on, y'all? Welcome back to JT's Mixtape. This is episode number 73. And if you guys are enjoying these podcasts, please give me a 5-star review on either Apple or Spotify. And if you're watching on YouTube, please hit the subscribe button. Thank you.
Come closer, my child.
What's going on, y'all? This podcast is brought to you by Modern Roots Life. Modern Roots Life is a Christian-owned and operated company, and it's bringing real health back to its roots. They offer powerful, all-natural health supplements such as beef liver, cod liver oil, beef tallow, magnesium, and mineral-rich salts, all sourced the way God intended. Clean, simple, and from the earth. So whether you're looking to boost your energy, restore mineral balance, or just fuel your family with real nourishment, Modern Roots Life has got you covered. Guys, in this community, we're trying to get healthy in our mind, in our body, and our spirit. So don't neglect your health. If you want more information, check out modernrootslife.com and check the link in my description. You know, people often ask me how they can support me. Well, I think it's pretty cool if you can support me by supporting the people who support me, and you get something in return. And being healthy is a pretty good return. Well, family, once again, the whole crew's here today. Again, I'm your host, JT. I've got Aaron, Tune Thy Heart with us. What's going on, Aaron?
What's up, y'all? Happy to be here.
And we've got the Demon Eraser as well, who's not going to talk about his haters at all today.
No talking about hate, but Jesus is king. We're going to make some more haters right here.
Right. Again, Jesus said there'd be haters, especially when you say Jesus is king or Christ is king, especially people like Ted Cruz.
He's not a fan. He's not a fan of that phrase, apparently.
No, he thinks it's anti-citrus. But besides that, is there anything else going on in y'all's neck of the woods or anything else that you guys are seeing? Because I'm going to try this day to not make it about current headlines. I feel like this podcast could probably be, you could watch it in 5 years and it would probably be just as relevant. So I think that's my ideal JT's Mixtape episode, that we're not giving you last week's news. So is there anything that's specific that you guys are seeing going across your feeds, or anything you guys are feeling?
Is that a prompt to play that video about the mind? Or
well,
we can deep to jump
so we were
there?
recording some stuff, and maybe some of this stuff might be bonus stuff for Patreon or maybe even the members side, because we were just recording off air, because sometimes we have some interesting conversations beforehand. But we were kind of talking about that idea about when Christ says that your faith has made you whole. So he's not necessarily saying that I healed you. I mean, it's your faith in him that you'll be healed, but without your faith, he's not going to heal you. So it's about the idea about our belief and our intentions that make all the difference in the world, as far as like what the power of God can work in you and through you. So Brian had an interesting video he wanted to tell us about.
Yeah. I'll share this, and it's very interesting about how healing works. And I deal with this a lot and pray with a lot of people that need healing in their life, and see a lot of miracles, honestly. And it's kind of crazy to most people, but it's not crazy to the ones that get healed. Like, you know what I mean? Like, it's crazy to people outside of the picture, but when you're the one that just has been struggling with this sickness your whole life and suddenly it's gone, what are you going to say about it? So, I mean, it's pretty fascinating seeing how this works. But there's a video. The power of faith is so real that we have to do double-blind studies with placebo pills before we verify if any drug or anything that they put out in the market is real. And that's because your faith has such a powerful impact on the reality of your circumstance that it's, undeniable at a certain point. But here, let's just play this video, and they explains it really well in this video.
Researchers out of Stanford took this one guy's terrible burning pain in his arm from a crush injury from a 7 out of 10 to a 3 out of 10 simply by telling him that they put a powerful pain reliever in his IV drip. In reality, there was no pain reliever. Brain scans of his brain even reflected that indeed he must be feeling dramatically less pain even though the pain reliever was all in his mind.
Significantly less activity in the brain in all of the areas involved with the processing and perception of pain.
The placebo effect is really widespread. Studies on fake sugar pills, placebos, have found that fake pills can make people more drowsy or stimulated. Fake placebo injections provide relief for Parkinson's, but the placebo injection that they say is more expensive works even better. Fake placebo pills even provide relief in irritable bowel syndrome, even if the people are straight up told it's a placebo. In depression drug trials, about 35 to 40% of patients improve on placebo alone. Even fake knee surgeries provide lasting relief. There's even placebo sleep. In this one study, researchers asked people about how they felt their sleep quality was the night before. Then they ran some tests using a bogus machine that the researchers claimed could accurately tell how good their sleep quality was. This was a lie. Then they did some cognitive tests. How good the people said their sleep was didn't even matter. Only the fake test results linked with cognitive performance. The people who were just told that they had really high sleep quality did better on the cognitive tests, and the people who were told that they had bad sleep quality did worse on the cognitive tests. Their actual reports of sleep quality didn't matter.
That is so fascinating. Tell me what you guys think about it.
No, so it's funny. I actually have probably a personal anecdote that goes along with that idea. I want to say probably maybe it was my early 30s. I went on a vacation to Cabo San Lucas, and like you're not really supposed to drink the water in certain things down in Mexico, and you should probably be wary of the kind of foods you get. And so there was a night I was out hanging out in Cabo, doing all the things that you'd expect somebody to do down there. And it was late at night, and I went out to like one of these street vendors, and they were selling these tacos or something, burritos or something. It was awesome. Of course, at that night, like about 2 a.m., it was amazing. It was the best thing I've ever eaten. Long story short, I come home, and I have my stomach is really messed up from this trip. And I've been to Costa Rica, and I've drank the water down there, and I got the Montezuma's Revenge. It was different than that, where, you have this upset stomach for like 2 weeks. But I had this lingering stomach ailment that lasted a long time. And at one point I started getting freaked out. And I was doing the WebMD thing where I was checking my symptoms, and I was like, I think I've got stomach cancer. I think I got cancer down there. So I don't know what happened to me.
Terrible to say.
I was getting so stressed out about it. And I think that probably that was making it worse, because if you think about it, if you have stress and anxiety, of course you're going to have stomach problems. So I think I had a real stomach illness coming back that I wasn't lying about. I had headaches and everything. But then I think it eventually manifested into something worse because I was so stressed about it. So then I was going to all these doctors. I got an endoscopy, where they snake that thing down there and look in your stomach to see if you have ulcers. I was taking these, kind of ulcer drugs and stuff like that. Was it, forgot, whatever those things are that they try to prevent you from getting ulcers or fix them. And I was dealing with this for 2 months. And as somebody who was kind of an athletic person and very active, I wasn't trying to be psychosomatic. I was just I knew that I was really sick. And so I'd gone through tests and different doctors for so many times. And then eventually, it was in my head, I was really worried that something was seriously wrong with me. But eventually I went to one doctor, and he was like, I'm going to tell you, he's like, there's nothing wrong with you. And he was saying that there's nothing on your scans. There's none of your test results show that you have anything wrong with you. You're fine. And I remember
That's awesome.
At one point I just said,
he just prophesied over you. He didn't
well, it was a situation where I didn't want it to be all in my own head, because I knew it was real. But at one point I just kind of did say well, there's nothing else they can really do for me. And he said, I'm fine. And I don't even know, it might've been a day or two later, I felt better.
That's so awesome.
But I mean, it's a situation where that, because I got that, the doctor said, I mean, seriously, there's nothing wrong with you. I mean, this is after seeing multiple doctors. And it was a situation where I just accepted it. I was like, I guess I'm fine. And then, I couldn't even really remember when I felt better or not. It was just one day I was like, there's nothing wrong with my stomach anymore.
It's demons, bro.
Well, I mean, I'm saying but I'm saying that it probably was a real sickness coming back. And then whatever caused it to continue was my belief that it
Your
was something,
acceptance.
it was something bad.
Well,
And that kept it going. And it wasn't only until the doctor basically said, "You're fine," that I started to believe him. And then I was fine.
So I'll tell you how it works demonically. Like, demons can't affect the physical world very easily. They can do little tiny things. Like, they can affect little cells once in a while and change enough cells that eventually they become cancer. They can do little pushes. They can do very little physical. They suck in the physical world. They operate in the mental world. So what they can do, though, is they can get you to believe a thing, and then it allows them permissionable access to affect that thing. And so demons will do this all the time based off of your conviction. In your head, you're thinking, I shouldn't have done that. I shouldn't have gone there. I was doing bad stuff. And you feel bad, right? In your head, the demon feeds off of you feeling bad. And then you start to worry. And when you worry, you're doubting God. And the demon feeds, and that's a sin technically. And the demon feeds off of your doubt and your unforgiveness for yourself or your situation. And then the demon takes advantage of that. They can only trick you into taking advantage of you. That's it. Demons don't have authority. They have to circumvent the authority we give them in order for them to affect it. Yeah, they have to steal your foolish authority. And because if your narrative, if you believe against the truth that you have been set free and that you are healed, whole, and complete, like, it don't work. And I know so many people that I can tell you 1,000 stories about this.
But this is why it is critical, like we were talking about before we started recording. This is why it's critical to know who you are in Christ and to know your authority in Christ. Because when you know who you are, when you know you've been plucked from the darkness, when you know that you've been forgiven, when you know that you've been washed pure by the blood of Jesus, you know that none of these things can touch you. None of these things can harm you. And so this is like the number one way witches and warlocks operate, through our minds. And they use these demons to impact us, because what they're really doing is they're trying to influence the way we see it and the way we feel about it. Because if we can come into agreement with it, if we believe they have that power, they do. If we believe that they can do those things to us, if we believe we have that sickness, if we believe we have all of those things, and that's why it's so important to accept his forgiveness and to even forgive ourselves, which I believe is part of that. And we talked about that on the Afterglow last week. To allow him to fully forgive us when we are set free, when we are made new in him. Because by allowing ourselves to receive his full forgiveness, we're not living in the past anymore. We're not living in the future. We are a new creation. And the enemy cannot hold us to that old standard anymore, because that's where he wants to keep us, because that's where the demons can absolutely wreck us.
When I was first going on this spiritual journey that I'm obviously still on, and 2021 was like my big wake up year. And it was like really kind of accepting like what God has promised me and what he's not promised me, willing to give away the things that are not promised, and then holding fast to the things that God has guaranteed. And God was really revealing a lot of things to me in the Bible. Like the Bible was finally unlocked to me, and I could finally like understand it. And I remember having this really interesting conversation with my brother about that. We were talking about the book of Revelation. Of course, this is when I had like the tribulation is coming situation. And the more I was reading my Bible, I was like, man, what God's really put on my heart is fear of the Lord. And I was telling my brother this. And then I'm driving home, and then eventually I call somebody else, and I'm telling that, like, you know what, this has really been on my heart is fear of the Lord. And then this is like a time where I was like praying for wisdom. And, because I know that it says in James that God gives that freely to people who ask. So I was like praying because I've been a dummy. So I was praying to be wise. And so I come home, and as soon as I get home, I open up my Bible and I start reading the Proverbs, and it's like, fear of the Lord is the beginning of wisdom, and knowledge of God is understanding. And I was like, dang, I was like asking for that, and like God revealed it to me. And there was a second there where I was like, well, maybe this is just a coincidence. But then it was like I had to decide, like, that if you prayed for something and it came true, do you believe this is a miracle? Do you believe this is from God? And when I accepted that, I think that's part of like that. When you do see a miracle happen, like, do you believe it? Do you believe that came from God? And I feel like that you asked for something, you received it. And if you're not willing to give praise and thanks to God because like, that God touched you in that moment, like that, I think that unlocked so much more, like a bigger world of like, that this is not just some old book. This has the power of God in it. And it only has the power of God in it if you believe it and accept it. So that's like all this thing. So it's like, so you can take a negative thing where you can believe something, somebody put a curse on you and you believed it. Well, then you're cursed. But if you reject it and you say, he who's in me is greater than he who's in the world, and you don't have authority over me. You don't have the ability to do that. Well, then I'm sure you can walk out unscathed.
Well, all authority in heaven and on earth has been given unto you. Therefore now go, Christ says, right? So like,
Amen.
You don't have to have, like, that authority it's already on us. It's been given to you. In fact, to the point where it's like, Jesus says, you can say unto this mountain, be thou removed and be thou cast in the sea, and it will obey you. Okay. And so like that when you understand the authority and the way the authority works, like that there is a position that we are already given to speak over ourselves, and that is to prophesy. The ability to speak in general is the ability to prophesy. So the fact that words come out your mouth, that's why it says you'll be judged for every idle word that you spoke, because the words there's an authority. There's a weight that goes to our authority.
People damn themselves with their own mouth.
All the time. All the time. You say, oh, I think I'm getting sick. Guess what? You'll get sick. Oh, I think I'm doing this. Okay, guess what? You're going to do it. And you know what? There's a chance that it might not happen. Lucky you. But like when you realize like nothing affects you and nothing can touch you, like you start walking in that authority to the point where it's like you just don't receive it. I mean, I know a dude that my friend was just telling me about this guy that he literally had cancer twice, walked in to the office and they told him he had cancer and he said, no, I don't. And he walked out of the office and he never got cancer. He just said, nope, no, I don't. And it's happened to him twice. And he was like 80 something years old. And he just said, nope. And he said, I'm not going to receive that. And then just left. And it never bothered him, never affected his life. But when the doctor, which I think is Latin, doctor, it means to agree. And so you're like, that's funny. So when the doctor tells you that you have this sick on you and you go, oh no, I do.
Right. Then you could maybe worry about it and you could manifest it even if you didn't even have it.
The demon tricks you into doing that and taking advantage of you while you believe that thing. There's, how many doctors have given wrong diagnosis?
Dude, it's literally a system set up by the demonic realm to get people to come into agreement with that stuff. That's literally what it is. I'm not saying there's no valid reason for doctors. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying you have to know your authority. And so like what JT, you were saying, because I agree with both of you guys, there is power in the word, right? Like the word is alive. There is power in the word, but it's like more of like a two-pronged approach. There's power in the word, but the question is, do you accept it? Do you agree with it? Do you walk in it? And so like witches and warlocks, they do hex people. They do curse people. They do cast spells on people. Do you accept it?
Yeah, well, it says a curse without a cause cannot come to rest on its intended victim. And so witchcraft...
And do you know your authority?
Yeah.
Because if you know you're protected by the wall of fire, if you know you're protected by the Holy Spirit, if you know you're washed in the blood of Jesus, that thing's not going to do a dang thing to you. So it's like, it's really a two-pronged approach. Well, so it's like...
Well, I was going to say too, that part of like my story was that I spoke it out loud, that what God was telling me. And if I didn't say it to my brother, and if I didn't say it to somebody else, what God was teaching me, well, then it would probably not have hit me as much that I went home and read that.
Totally.
You know what I'm saying? Like, because it's like I spoke it out my mouth and I was saying, this is what God is showing me. So, and I said it 2 times. And then by the time I read it, I was like, dang, like that's confirmation that this happened. You know, but like you said, but if I was just thinking it, you know what I'm saying? It might not have been it's not been as weighty of all the things. And I do think that's interesting. And I got a video, maybe this kind of goes, but it's like a situation where we do often wonder when we talked about the news repeating these phrases and the
same thing.
Yeah. Like the idea that these messages are repeated over and over, and sometimes they're real subtle, and it's like the predictive programming where like they get you to accept an idea before it actually happens. And so therefore your belief, and I thought this was interesting.
I call it demonic prophecy is what I call
but
that.
This video is really interesting in the way that how subtle these messages could actually be.
It's actually a sound that will change your hearing forever.
Wait, no, I don't want to hear it.
First, I want you to listen to this. Tell me what you hear.
Okay.
What do you hear? alien, like just like robots, right?
Yeah.
Okay, I'm gonna play you another sound, and once I play you this sound, it's straight up gonna change you forever.
Okay.
Ready?
It was a sunny day and the children were going to the park.
Okay. Because you heard that, I'm gonna replay the other sound.
Okay.
And tell me what you hear. You hear the voice now!
I hear it.
And you hear it.
I hear it.
And you can never not hear it anymore. That was the original audio.
Oh, that was the. Are you sure?
So what this does, it changes your brain because it gave you more information. And now you're subconsciously listening. This is where it gets scary.
Okay.
Because that's exactly what's being played to us every single day.
What you mean?
Music, with news, with media, we're subconsciously being taught different things, waiting to hear an outcome that we already know. So we're not really in control anymore. And it's very subconscious.
Absolutely, that's happening.
Isn't that wild though? So I mean,
I heard that a long time ago, and I
have-
still hear it.
Yeah, you guys who are, watching the podcast, if you guys want to go back, I'm not going to do that for you guys today, but if you go, if you go back and listen to that video, because of course, when I first watched that reel, I went back to the beginning to make sure that what they were saying was accurate, that it was the original audio. And sure enough, I heard what was said afterwards.
I heard that video a long time ago, and the first time, and even now, the first sound I heard, it sounded the same sound. It's like I can't unhear it now.
Right? What do you think about that, Aaron?
No, I mean that's exactly how they use music against people. That's exactly how they use frequency against people. They bury that stuff in music. They bury that stuff in movies. They bury that stuff in commercials and TV shows. And the thing is,
all that stuff,
all of it. But the thing is, if you don't have the key, like if you don't know what they're saying, if you don't know what's being said, it's going to be next to impossible for you to fully understand what they're saying. And that's why you've got to be so careful, like what you listen to, right? Like that's why just random scrolling is actually dangerous. You have no control over what's going to enter your ears or enter your eyes. None. But they do. They've got full control over that. They take you on a whirlwind of emotions, highs and lows, and they systematically dismantle you by doing that stuff. Now, I also believe that we're protected by the Holy Spirit, in a lot of those ways. But yeah, dude, that's accurate.
Yeah,
What makes me think of?
It
Makes me think of the movie They Live, right? Where you see like the subliminal messages in the signs and the magazines and the money, and so you put the glasses on, and you're like, obey, breed, consume. And so like that message, again, it's like the whole idea that what they've learned through Project Montauk, the Monarch Project or MK Ultra, these different types of mind control techniques, like this ends up being, it can be used for just straight up evil, but it can also just be used because these people want to make us drones and things like that for their wicked plans.
Yeah, it's all manipulation, and like ultimately these kind of manipulations do have an effect on the mind and the psyche of people. This is a form of witchcraft that affects things, but there is other forms of witchcraft, and a lot of times witchcraft, it's very fascinating. A lot of witchcraft doesn't really affect people if you don't believe in it, but you still can get affected by things like this. This form of witchcraft, it absolutely will go into your subconscious mind. It will start to affect little parts of the way you believe or think or view stuff. And what you're doing is you're actually rejecting what the Holy Spirit in you is actually already telling you. Because a lot of times you'll watch something or feel something, you'll be like, that feels off, and you won't know why. And you'll be like, why does it feel off? And you're like, but if you just listen to the Holy Spirit inside of you and go, maybe I shouldn't watch that, and you don't watch it, you'll be fine. But you may not know the answer of why it feels off, but it feels off because of something like that.
And it's because we gave it permission by watching it or listening to it. And that's why, again, I urge everybody to not just mindlessly scroll and not just mindlessly listen to music out there. Like, be very intentional about what you let through your ears and let through your eyes, because once you give it permission, it is kind of a different ballgame. But like Brian said, make sure you're listening to the Holy Spirit. Make sure you've got that connection with the Holy Spirit, because if something feels off or he's urging you to not listen to something or watch something, obey that. Like, please obey that.
Yeah. And you don't need to scroll, because we show you the best videos on,
Yeah, you just
on the
stay.
interwebs.
You just stay here on Echoes of Truth or on Demon Erasers. Those are the only 3 channels you guys need.
Yeah, if you watch them here, then you don't have to worry about it.
We do the scrolling for you.
Yeah, exactly.
We endure it.
I'm putting myself at great risk to find these videos for you guys, so I hope you guys appreciate it. But, you know, to continue a similar theme, this is funny. This video kind of is about maybe the very first podcast me and Brian did together. I mean, we did other kind of maybe live streams and stuff together, but like this was like one of the first podcast topics we had on the former podcast. It was called Decoding Babylon. Brian, do you remember this?
People go to Taylor Swift concerts and complain because they got very expensive tickets and they can't remember the show.
Really?
Yeah.
That's not true.
Give it a goog. Good.
Are they
Nobody
tampering
knows
with the
why.
water?
You ever hear of any show where somebody goes, I'm mad because I paid $2,000 and I can't remember the show? Now, if I went to it, I wouldn't remember it because of Taylor Swift. You know, who the is going to see Taylor Swift that has $2,000 and they, I assume, are taking their daughter because it's got to be a millennial, right?
I'm reading this Taylor Swift amnesia syndrome, post-concert amnesia, where fans report having difficulty remembering details from her concert. You think they're just bored and blacking out?
No, somebody who worked on those concerts messaged me on my show, Derp with Gerp, and said it has something to do with these like disco globes they were using.
What if it's subliminal messaging going on?
There's no what if about it. Why would that be a popular? What do you think when you see that people have alien abduction syndrome from a Taylor Swift concert?
Yeah.
Do you think that's not? Is she an industry plant? Remember they would say that?
Yeah.
Is she an asset of the? Yeah, of course, idiot. All the things you like are part of that.
Brian, you remember that conversation?
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
That's wild.
That's
true. That's true. I remember because we did a video. I think it was me and Keep Cool Calvin, and it was the 3 of us, and we were breaking down her one video that was super symbolic, and it had her as Lady Liberty and stuff, or Lady Justice, and it was with that other girl with the big fro, whatever her name was. Ice Spice or something.
Yeah, Spice.
And we were breaking that down, and it was like the very next week, all this news had dropped about like multiple articles about how people are going to Taylor Swift shows and they did not remember being there. They had no recollection of the concert. And we're like,
spell casting.
Demons, bro.
Yeah, it's demons for sure. They're being manipulated in their mind and like being influenced in ways they don't even realize.
What do you think about that, Aaron?
Yeah, no, it's also the subharmonic frequencies that they're using at those concerts. They're doing things. So this is just a fact. They're doing things at those live concerts that they can't do through their music, because one thing they can't control when you listen to your music, they can't control whether you're listening to it through headphones, whether you're listening to it through a good stereo system. They can't control the decibels. They can't control the volume that you're listening to it on. They can't control the size of the cone on the speaker that you're listening to the music through. But when you're at those live concerts, you are in front of those speakers, and you are in front, and they can control every frequency that's being blazed through those speakers. They can control the volume. It wasn't just her. There was other artists. I want to say in 2022 or 2023, there were other artists where people were going, they were falling over.
It was Lana Del Rey.
There was a whole wave of people that fell over
Right.
at that concert, a whole wave, and they fell in a wave, which was what's crazy. And it came from the side that one of the speakers was on. And so you can watch the wave of people fall and trickle down. If we can find that, we can put it into the video. There's a whole wave of people that fall down. And so I was warning all of my friends that year. I'm like, dude, don't go to live shows. Like, don't go to live shows anymore. Being a musician and loving music, we've talked about this before. I cannot listen to music anymore. And I cannot go to live shows anymore. It's not enjoyable for me. It's not fun. And I feel like I'm in danger just imagining even going to one of them, because I have no control over what's going to take place. And I have been in crowds before where music's being played and I started to feel like I had no control over my body. No control over my body, and no control over, to a certain extent, even my free will. And that's a terrifying feeling. And
Gosh.
so, yeah, that stuff's very real. It's absolutely real.
Well, I was thinking, Brian, that when he specifically was talking about they got some kind of weird disco ball things there, I couldn't help but think about you and think about, like, is it hypnotism? Like this something is hypnotic about whatever they're doing with the lights and whatever these globes are that they're using.
Oh yeah, it is definitely. But you don't need lights and globes to hypnotize people, but you can do it with just words and spells. But yeah, that's definitely an effect. It adds to the in hypnosis, it adds to the distracted element of the mind, because when the mind is going into a space where they're paying attention to something moving or tracking, it kind of shuts off the other part of the mind because you're so focused on something. So yeah, those disco balls are all designed for hypnosis. Absolutely.
And here's one thing that people forget about, and that's that. And this is it's going to feel gross when I say this, because you're going to be like, that's not my thoughts when I go to a concert. But it doesn't really matter what your thoughts are. You're going to a worship service. That's what you're doing. You're going to a worship service. It's just that you're worshiping the people that are on stage. And you may not worship the people that are opening for them the same way you're worshiping the final act or whoever you went there to go see. But you are at a worship service to worship the person that you paid for the tickets for. And so your heart and mind are already open. They're already flayed when you get there. You're already open and susceptible to whatever they're going to do, because there's a part of your heart and a part of your mind that is willing to subject yourself to whatever might come as a result of entering into that contract by going to that concert. You buy the ticket, you spend the money, you buy the ticket, you dedicate the time, you dedicate the day, like a lot. Think about how much energy goes into you committing to that concert. So by the time you get there, they've got you, man. They can do whatever they want to you. They can do whatever they want to you.
Yeah, for sure. You know what? It kind of makes me think too. It was funny because I was in Vegas a couple weeks ago, and my wife and I wanted to check out the Sphere, and so we ended up going to see like the Wizard of Oz, which I know that's quite a MK Ultra type movie. But there was a concert there that I actually thought about just checking it out. It was one of these EDM type DJ concerts. I think it was called Illenium. Have you ever heard of him?
I haven't, but EDM is one of the, if not the most demonic music that exists, because they actually know exactly what they're doing with those.
Well, right. Well, I mean, so
there's a lot. Dude, I've talked to people that literally, I know people that have told me, like, when they hear EDM music kick on, they can feel their whole entire, like, their body, to the point where they had to stop listening to it when they became a Christian, because it started activating their body, started like moving, and started getting sexual thoughts popping into their head out of nowhere. Like just hearing the EDM music.
Well, we're talking about, we showed this, and we won't overdo this because we've talked about this before, but like in those EDM concerts, now like some of these DJs have like the most hypnotic AI type demonic beings in the background, and they're all gyrating, and so of course if you go to the Sphere, it's probably like that on steroids, because it's like it's so immersive that you're there. And of course, like you were saying that, Brian, that you don't have to have like a necessarily like some kind of hypnotic disco ball doing something, but it helps probably.
Yeah, it does help.
It's kind of the same way that if MK Ultra, there's different ways to control the mind, but a lot of them involve psychedelics, because that's a way to probably get maybe somebody who's maybe less primed for it to open up their consciousness. So when you go
all
to
of that,
EDM
all of that lasers and all the lights, all that stuff was started. It started doing that wasn't a thing until MK Ultra started getting involved in like the Grateful Dead and all this other stuff. Then they started incorporating more of that kind of effect stuff.
Right, and the Grateful Dead were once the Warlocks.
Yeah, were once the
Warlocks. And they were connected
exactly.
with three-letter agencies. But no, what I was saying is that so when you go to these EDM concerts, it's very common for people to take psychedelics when they go to get into it. So like these people are automatically, they're so prepped to be controlled by whatever the message is. And again, if you see how subtle it is in that one video where it's 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 what's the right word? It's illegible, that frequency sound, but it had a message in it. And it's like, you might not know what it means, but your brain did. Like your brain picked up what that message is. And so you really have opened yourself up to be an empty vessel for whatever this message or this spirit that could potentially come into you. But I got a video, I got a perfect video, because what Aaron said about worship. This is an old video of mine, but I thought this is apt for this, is that you might not think you're going to worship. And that was funny. Me and Brian actually talked about this before, about how that you don't necessarily know you're going to worship, but you might also know that you're not necessarily doing something that God would really want you to do. It's very similar to the story in Numbers when it talks about that the Israelites were basically deceived into going worship Baal of Peor, and they were taking part in this pagan festival where they were worshiping a false god. And then so God sends a plague upon them. But like, I don't know that that's necessarily was their intention. Their intention was all kinds of other lascivious sex acts and debauchery. But God counted as you went to worship this false god. But do you remember that? I think it was like 3 years ago at the Grammys that Sam Smith came out there in his devil outfit. You guys remember that?
Yeah.
Yeah, check this out. So CBS deleted this tweet. We are ready to worship. Worship what? Well, apparently this was in response to Sam Smith's performance of Unholy, where he dresses up like the devil in hell. So I would say worship the devil.
Because there's a bunch of devil worshippers in Hollywood.
Apparently, when CBS tried to delete this, they didn't realize that's not how the internet works. People can screenshot stuff. The internet doesn't forget. Hard to put that toothpaste back in the tube. So yeah, you're going to have to own that one. You know, I get a lot of grief for saying these people worship the devil. So now if you want to say I'm reaching, bro, I'll give you that opportunity right now. And oh, and by the way, if you haven't noticed, the logo for CBS is an eyeball. The eye of Horus, the eye of the Illuminati, the eye of the devil. So when they say they're ready to worship the devil, you know they mean it.
Because there's a bunch of devil worshippers in Hollywood.
Yeah, I remember I made a video about that afterwards. I think I was talking about a live stream. I was saying, yes, this is a receipt that I'm going to say forever. When you say I'm reaching, when I say they're worshiping the devil, CBS literally said, let's get ready to worship, regarding Sam Smith literally dressing up with an all red with horns and a tail and a pitchfork. So, right, you know, so like, am I really reaching about any of this stuff? Are we reaching to say that they worship the evil one? I don't think so.
I mean, at this point, anybody that doesn't see it that way is trying to not see it that way. Like, you have to proactively try to not see it that way.
Yeah, probably.
Yeah, I mean, it is funny. Like we were talking about last week when we were talking about deals with the devil, or like people who said they sold their souls for the devil. When somebody tells you something like that, believe them.
100%.
I think this is a situation where, again, like belief, like, no, they don't really do that, but they're leading you into a very dangerous area spiritually. So when they warn you, believe it. All right, what do you guys want to talk about next? I said I know that I got some Bigfoot videos, but before I get to that, I found a fun video because last week when we were talking about the moon at the end of the podcast, a lot of people in the chat, the live chat, were saying, is Brian becoming a flat earther? It seemed like like a flat earth light bulb just was starting to blink in his head. Like, wait a minute. If the tides aren't controlled by the moon, then maybe this whole gravity thing they tell us about in the spinning ball model might not be accurate. And
well, before we move on to that, since we're on the topic of music, I've got kind of a funny clip to play.
Okay. All right.
Just talking about the influence of music. It can also be extremely funny as well. So.
You know what, dude? Though, you know what that sounded like? That
like
sounded
the sound from the disclosure
the
day.
Disclosure Day, right? You know, and I didn't make a connection to this. And of course, this
disturbing.
podcast,
really,
I feel like
want to hear
we are
that
on the
for some
pulse
reason.
of what's true and what's interesting, what's hot today. Is that I never considered that it might have sounded like a dolphin until I just saw that video.
Crazy, right? Do we want to stay on the topic of dolphins while we're here? Because I may or may not have something for that.
You have a dolphin video?
I actually have, I think, 2 dolphin videos. But
it's not sexual.
Well, the last dolphin video, you know that was the one with the dude that was supposedly a guy. Ended up being fake. You guys know that? Ended up being like a made up story.
That's all fine, but check this out.
What part of it was fake?
Apparently, the whole thing. Somebody made an internet meme and got it in the rounds, and they did it on purpose to see if
maybe
maybe
you guys might change your opinion after you see this one.
That's a person. Yeah.
Okay, so a few months ago, I saw this guy in the middle of the ocean, and he was just standing there looking around. This is how far out it was. And then I look a little bit closer at my footage, and look what I see. Like, look at this dolphin. And this has to be Gerald. Watch this. Have you ever seen dolphins do this? So now it all makes sense. Like, look at this dolphin. He's like floating on his back. Like, Gerald definitely would do something weird like that. So what I'm thinking happened is they recruited that guy that's in the ocean, and now they're like happy because he probably built them an underwater city, and he's like floating on their backs now. Dolphins only do that when they're happy and they're like playing around. The whole thing was just weird though, because after I saw the guy, he just completely disappeared and he never even came out of the water. I didn't know if I was going crazy, so I asked people at the beach if they saw him, and they said yeah, and they saw him go underwater, and they never saw him come up again. And now with the whole Gerald thing coming out, it all makes sense. He was definitely helping them build an underwater city.
So obviously the building the underwater city and some of the stuff she said is kind of laughable, because how can you prove that? But a dude being out there in the middle of the ocean and then just disappearing, and they showed his face. He didn't have any scuba gear on.
It kind of looked like he was at a depth where he was standing, though. The way his head was standing.
Pretty far out, man.
Well, I mean, the truth is sandbars can be very far out.
That's true.
I remember I surfed in Costa Rica where the break was probably 250 yards out into the ocean, but like where the break was, you could stand up.
Yeah.
I just think that's just another story to just keep spinning the narrative and make this conspiracy people look crazy. That's
maybe, but one thing that's for sure,
mythologies.
But one thing that's for sure is that there's a lot of funky activity going on in the water and in the marine kingdom that we don't know about.
Okay. So let's get back to the underwater bases, since these are these photos. So this is, I guess, in an episode you spoke of having to do procedures underwater. And could you explain why? Like, why would you not just put the being in a tank and operate them in a regular room? Why would you have to be underwater as well?
Well, some of the beings come from water worlds, and there's a lot of beings that live here. We call them like aquafarians. Is kind of the code we use for that. They live here already. They've been living here a long time, but we do have visitors that also come from very far away, that their ships have liquid in them of all different sorts of materials. This specific one, it looks like a mermaid man with little fins. There's sometimes that you cannot, people are like, well, why can't you use those big tubes? And like, because you don't have the visualization, number one. So we actually have operating rooms as big as this room, filled with seawater, that we walk into with these suits and take samples, because the bodies have to be kept in the water or they'll deteriorate with pure oxygen on the surface. So that's why we cannot, use these little capsules and stuff. You have to be ambidextrous here. You're talking some very small instruments and things like that. This is a good depiction of that. And we have these special boots that keep us, they're magnetic, that keep us on the ground. Everything is contained in the suit. And this is just one of the artist renditions that I depicted for them for this. procedure. So it has everything an operating room would have. It's just it's underwater.
How many times did you have to do an underwater procedure like that? Did you do them often?
No, maybe 5% of the ones that I did, you had to do in some sort of liquid or water.
So this feeds right into biblical cosmology and the fact that these beings are not coming from outer space.
Aquafarians? Bro, what in the demon-possessed, retarded fantasy world is this? Like, guy talking about? Like,
I believe him.
You believe him? Oh my god!
No, I don't believe him. But that is interesting.
Wait.
Yeah,
What's not to believe?
The connection with the idea that these beings from the sea, again, connected with Sheol and Hades, that they're communicating with and potentially doing surgeries on Prince Namor from Atlantis. Is that what we're seeing there?
all he's confirming is that these beings are coming from the water. That's all I took out of that. Who knows how much of the other stuff's true?
He's doing
Only
operations
5%
underwater.
of the surgeries are done underwater, Brian.
Yeah, of course. Who knows what that number means?
Like, what is this man? Some magical man that's got the ability to do surgeries? Like, what? Like, come on, bro. Like, what? Like, oh,
well, we don't
just
know his
hired this-
background. I don't know if he comes from working with a
Obviously,
3-letter
he's a
agency.
doctor. Obviously, he's a doctor. Clearly,
Yeah,
obviously.
I'm sure he was working with some sort of 3-letter agency. He's got to have.
And he
He's
knows
got to
the
have
anatomy
enough.
of fishmen. Obviously, duh. Why wouldn't they? They need a
Right,
human to do the
Aquaman.
operations.
Listen, all I know is we've heard some far-fetched things on this show about who knows what and who's connected to what. So if you know, it's highly possible and highly believable that there are people out there
That he's demon
that work
possessed.
for these 3-letter agencies that have had to operate on beings that aren't necessarily human.
Underwater.
And all I'm saying is those beings, we know there's beings in the pit, and we
Yeah,
know
right,
that
right.
the pit's in the water.
That's why
I
there's,
agree.
that's why
I
there's a
agree.
little bit of validity to maybe some of it. I was just thinking, of course, my
all
comic
good
book
lies
brain. I
have a little
mentioned
bit of validity to it. You know,
Prince
That's
Namor, and he was in the most recent, I think, Black Panther movie that was horrible, and they made him Mexican for some reason, even though he's Atlantean. But the thing about Prince Namor is funny because he lives in the sea and he can breathe air, but he has wings on his feet in the comic books. Like, why would he have wings that can fly in the air? I
He's
think
like a
that
flying
probably
fish.
because they're showing you that he's some kind of angelic being, right? Because, like, why else would this sea monster potentially, like, why would he fly in the air? Why would he have wings that fly through the air?
Valid question. But this topic directly lends itself to biblical cosmology, which is, I believe, where you were transitioning to.
Right. Well, yeah, I couldn't help but think when they were talking about wearing those suits in the water that had magnetic boots and they look like space suits. Is that because outer space is actually in the water? Because when you actually look into outer space or potentially satellites, all you really get is a bunch of CGI and BS.
And it would make sense that there could possibly be lands. I'm not sold on that idea yet, but there could possibly be lands outside of the firmament in various directions, and those would have to be accessible via water.
So wait, Prince Namor, I just looked him up. He does have wings on his heels like Hermes.
Right,
But
right, exactly.
But he goes underwater? He's an underwater guy?
Yeah, he's an Atlantean. He's like a Prince of Atlantis.
Interesting. He's in a movie or something?
Yeah, but he's a real old comic book superhero. He's basically Marvel's Aquaman. But I think Aquaman basically has the same kind of mythologies about connecting with Atlantis. But yeah, let's talk
he
about
looks in the movie, he looks like an Aztec
right.
warrior. Like he's like some kind of Aztec dude.
Well, they blended mythologies, and of course, Disney wanted to make it diverse and gay, so they made him a Mexican guy instead of an Atlantean. But it is interesting, the stories about what the South Americans, the Mayan, and some of these other cultures, they discuss. They believe that Quetzalcoatl or Amaru came with like a group of very white people that escaped some kind of a flood. And so they have a story from South America, but obviously that's not where they're from. But let's talk about fake outer space.
All right, follow me. I ain't been smoking, drinking, or nothing. I'm just thinking. So we get this footage from satellites all the way up in space, right? I can zoom in and I can see houses from the satellite, right? So why, when I zoom out and I want to see the footage from the satellite, that same satellite, why this turn into a cartoon? Why I can't get the real footage from the satellite? If I can zoom all the way in and get satellite footage far away, if I can get the footage zoomed all the way in, then why I can't get the footage, just the regular footage? Why it turn into a cartoon? Huh?
I mean, the easy answer is the satellites. It only zooms in to the point where the satellites are at, and the rest of it's just animated.
Well, right. Wouldn't that make you think that they're not 250 miles up or 500 miles up or whatever they say that they are? They're
actually,
low-level satellites.
Where's the Hubble?
Dude,
where's the
wait.
Hubble? Brian,
By
where's
the way,
the Hubble?
You mentioned the Hubble. Do you know what the Rock? By the way, I'm gonna tell you something crazy. Do you know that the Muslims, they worship that the Kaaba, the Kaaba, right? The Kaaba, and the Kaaba is that black cube, the black cube of
In
Saturn.
Mecca?
Did you know that the god that used to be there, the pagan god that they replaced it with, name was Hubal, Hubble, Hubal. Isn't that fascinating?
Hubal.
Hubble means Hubal. It's Hubal.
Where
it's the
is
name of
the
the
Hubble
god.
located?
I don't know. But here, I don't know. But here's a fascinating
Is it
idea.
in space?
Since I don't know where it's located at. But the fascinating spot would be like, supposedly they have a telescope in space that can zoom out and go everywhere, right?
But it only captures cartoon images.
It only captures cartoon.
Right.
You know what would be funny is we could probably calculate the distance of that zooming in to the calculation of the width of how far out the angle is seeing. So when you zoom out, we could do a calculation right now. I'll do it right now. Actually, when we get off the show, I'll do a calculation and say, okay, it moves this many miles wide when it goes this far out. How far away is that camera? And we can actually deduce how far until the camera angle turns animated, how high up that angle is. And so we can actually
stayed
determine,
animated until it got into the actual country.
Yeah, well, that's how far up the camera is, as I'm saying. Do you see what I'm saying?
Right,
So
you guys
only that far up.
We're not disagreeing.
So I can determine how high up the satellite actually is. So they say the satellites are
not as far up as they say
20.
it is.
Yeah, they could say the satellites are 20 miles up in the air, but the reality is, if we can zoom out and only see this much surface area, then that means the satellite may only be however much, like, a mile up in the air or something.
Yeah, but see, here's why that calculation might not be accurate, is because what you get from Google Earth would be a bunch of satellites and then all this stuff stitched together. So you might not be able to tell exactly where they stitch the other images together.
True.
What they probably do is they get lots of images, lots of pictures, and then they use some kind of an AI to formulate them together to make it interactive where you can move it around. But like, you can't really.
But at whatever distance it shifts into the animation is the distance that's as high up as it'll go.
Listen,
Well,
here's what
it
we
would
need
still
to do.
depend on the kind of lens that the satellite has to take the pictures.
But
Here's what we need to do.
It can't be a concave lens because it's got to be like flat images that they can stitch properly.
That's true.
So,
Let's start a GoFundMe to collect, I don't know, $4,000 maybe, if that's what it costs, maybe less than that. Let's get the weather balloon. Let's get all of the GoPros. Let's get all of the cameras, all the stuff we need. We all meet in one location. Let's send our own balloon up and capture our own imagery and see how high that balloon goes. So we don't have to rely on other people's YouTube test videos and this and that. And have you guys seen that video where no, we will make our own video and we will capture our own data and we will show you guys firsthand what the truth is from the data that we capture.
We need to get
it would only cost a few grand.
We need to get the PN1000 Nikon camera, the one that they stopped manufacturing. We have to get that camera to like track it, Well,
according to David Shane, that camera is good. It's no replacement for like a good telescope. the ones that he had. But yeah, I want to say that when I did some research into satelloons, those things through what they call them like weather balloons, those things can go up to like 75 miles up.
Exactly.
So some of them go really, really high. And according to NASA, you guys can look this up. I want to say that if you go 50 miles up as a person, they consider you an astronaut who's gone to space. That's their definition.
Well, listen. I just want to know right now, everyone watching this in the comments, how many of you would contribute to something like that? Because we will literally do it if you guys help us out. Because I'm broke as a joke, and I'm not going to ask you guys to foot the bill. So,
Brian's all about some experiments,
dude. I'm all about it, bro.
I'd do it tomorrow, man. If we had the money,
I would too. I'd be so about it.
Okay. Well, if you guys are willing to help us out, we will literally get it done. And we'll give you a full accounting on every penny spent, and then give it back to you when we're done. If there's anything left,
you know what's going to happen? Though they're going to consider it a Chinese spy satellite, and we're going to get
shoot it down.
We're going to go. Yeah, we're going to get. It's going to get shot down, and then we're taken to the gulag.
We'll get some great viral content then.
I've already been trying to buy one of those P9000s, and I just keep checking, and it's like, dude, they're so expensive still. And I'm like, $1,000. I'm like, I don't want to spend $1,000. So
but also to get one of those attached to a balloon and pointed in the right direction and film, we're gonna have to rely on some different methods for filming.
We're gonna get Brian to go up in the balloon.
I'll go
for that, right? Put him on a chair.
I'm down.
Absolutely.
I've paraglided before. I'll get a paraglide outfit, then I'll just jump. I'll jump once we get high enough, and then I'll just paraglide down.
Perfect.
Okay, I got a completely different transition. This video is just weird. I don't know if you guys had seen this. This very random, or maybe not random, maybe mysterious event that happened in Japan.
This 88-foot-long pipe mysteriously burst out of the ground on a highway in Japan, stopping traffic and surprising locals. It almost looks like something you'd see in a certain video game. The steel pipe rose more than 42 feet into the air. Fortunately, no one was hurt. Authorities are still investigating what caused it to shoot up out of the ground. We do know that construction was underway at this site to connect a sewer line to a massive underground rainwater storage system to prevent flooding. The 88-foot steel pipe was supposed to hold back surrounding soil during excavation. The pipe's now been mostly pushed back underground, and officials plan to cut off the part that's still sticking out.
That doesn't even make sense.
That's some War of the World stuff. Now, were they aware of the pipe? Was that their pipe? They never really said.
Well, supposedly they said it had something to do with keeping soil in place or something. It doesn't make any sense to me, but that sounds, when I first saw that, I was like, that's got to be fake, but no, it's actually real. Like this pipe
just like
it is
grew out of the ground.
It's straight out of Super Mario Brothers.
Did anyone pop out and say,
Japan.
"It's me"?
It's me. In Japan, what is the probability of this, man? Like, it's prophecy, guys. We've been prophesying Japan will just grow pipes. Apparently, it happens now.
Yeah, after what, 55 years? Or
yeah, 55 years.
45 years of video game prophesying.
Right, yeah, that's their game, right? Nintendo is them.
Isn't there a new Mario movie that just came out too, or it's about to?
And you know what those pipes end up being, right? Portals.
Tunnels to the portals to the underworld.
Portals to Antarctica.
Portals to who knows where.
Who's down to go down the pipe? Like, someone needs to go down the pipe.
Well, they're saying that they had some massive rainwater drainage system down there. Like, why did it have to be massive? Couldn't they just drain it to the sea?
All I know is no one can change my mind that there are underground tunnels and tubes running underneath our feet everywhere in the entire freaking world. I think that there is a system in Antarctica that runs to every single possible land dwelling in the world.
Maybe
from
Godzilla's waking up.
I mean, but that is crazy, though. That thing came out of the ground, where they say 88 feet or something, or is it not that high?
What is a pipe to nowhere? Just like popping up out of the ground.
I thought they said 40 or 60.
Okay, maybe.
Feet.
Yeah.
I'm not really sure. But either
still
way,
big, still big, and that was a massive.
Insane.
That was a massive pipe.
Who knows how much more is underneath?
Right? Is that the only one? Yeah. Somebody again. GoFundMe. We'll send Brian over to Japan, and we'll get Brian to go down the pipe.
Hold on, but also, what was it leading to? Like it had an open top, like it had a flat top. So like, what was it leading to? It's almost as if it was just there, waiting for someone to open up the top and go down into it. Because it's not like stuff came spewing
Let's
out
watch
of
that
it.
again. I want to see what. Let's skip to the part where they talk about like what it was. They claim the purpose was.
And the guy even had to cut it open and look inside of it to see what was inside of it.
Yeah. They don't even know what it is.
Okay, so it was 42 feet in the air. It was 88 feet tall was the pipe, I guess, in totality. But it was supposed to hold back soil during excavation.
That doesn't make sense.
I'm
never
trying
heard of
to,
a
I'm
pipe
trying
doing
to,
that.
I'm trying to figure that in my brain how that would make sense. Like, what does the pipe have to do with holding back soil? Unless they inserted the pipe and then they were digging down. But if you inserted the pipe, wouldn't you have already had a hollow cavity to get down there? I guess maybe that's what they're saying. They're saying that they somehow installed this pipe down in there and then they dug in the pipe to dig out the soil.
None of it makes any sense.
I've never seen what?
Very sus. Very sus. You know, and on that note, the topic of portals, before we get to that, I've got some prep videos for this. We don't talk about cryptids that much on this show. We occasionally we do. Bigfoot. Now, Bigfoot is, again, it's kind of interesting. I don't know, like the Bigfoot stuff, I don't know, for some reason doesn't move me that much. I was more of a Loch Ness Monster type guy. But Bigfoot is interesting. So I saw one of these videos on TikTok, and this was like, the Bigfoot community, this is like old hat, and they've seen this video a million times. You guys ever seen this very famous video from like 1994 of a supposed Bigfoot being caught on camera?
Can't see much up through here. I hear the brush popping and stuff. Oh, there he goes. Jesus. Get up here where I can see him real quick. Get up here. Get a better picture.
Brian, what did you think?
I saw him.
I was
I'm
more
just
tripped out by the fact that this
so-
guy's got like the worst cardio ever. I mean, did he just run a marathon before he recorded that video?
You know, it might have. It's just sometimes the camera's so close it catches people's breathing, but you know, I don't know. That seems sus to me. I'm just so not you can't catch these spiritual things on camera.
So Brian's of the opinion that Bigfoot is actually not a physical creature. It's
No,
a
it's a
spiritual
spiritual thing.
manifestation.
Mhm.
So
And
it's
if you
not
try to
something
film it,
you
it
could
ain't gonna work.
touch. If you
No,
got
you
close
could
enough.
touch it potentially, but you couldn't film it.
What do you think, Aaron? Are you a believer in Bigfoot?
I think that if okay, so first of all, I don't think it's outside of the realm of possibility that something exists out there that's like, you know, a cross between a human and an ape or a bear or like whatever
Totally
it is.
could
Like,
be.
yeah,
agree.
I don't think it's outside of the realm of possibility at all. What I do question is the fact that there is literally no evidence anywhere of any kind to support anyone having ever actually caught one. And I've not seen any footage that made me feel like, oh, that's legit Bigfoot footage. But I can see Brian's perspective, and I see it more and more than I would have been open to a handful of years ago, where I also could see the enemy totally screwing with people based on their belief system. Again, this comes down to belief. People out in the wild believing in these things and it wanting to toy with people, it wanting to scare people, it wanting to, or maybe it does, appear and then it changes its appearance and disappears. I've heard some crazy stories from people that I trust. I mean, I've had stories with people that were out in the woods and all of a sudden they felt like something was in their presence, and all of a sudden they literally heard something talking to them from behind them, and it's like, don't turn around and look at me. Like your eyes wouldn't be able to even perceive or comprehend like what I am. So don't even turn around and look at me. And they end up having these conversations with these things, and they have to be some kind of demonic entity or something that we can't see in our current dimension. There's just so much we don't know.
They're real things. They just they're just not. You just can't film.
They're not physical. They're not three-dimensional. Yeah.
They have an effect on the physical reality, but not in a way that that's actually tangible. It's like your mind is seeing it in the reality of this physicality.
Right. We can't comprehend it. We literally can't comprehend it because we can't see enough of the light spectrum. And we have no comprehension of the things that don't make sense to us in this third dimension. Absolutely none.
Yeah, well, of course, the Bigfoot stories, again, it is more interesting when I learn more about them because most of the accounts are very paranormal. So that kind of leads credence to y'all's takes right now, is that it sounds like a ghost story, and then there's this weird ape thing there. But again, like, how close have anybody actually been to it? Where it's like, typically the stories are that they're from about the vantage point we see from that video, where it's like, do you really know what you saw? Like, nobody really actually knows what it, but it's like, it's kind of like that video again. We're going back to the idea that you have this weird frequency noise, and then later when you know what it was being said, you can hear it. So you're seeing a Bigfoot because you believe that Bigfoot's real, right? So like your perception of like what that is automatically goes to, that's a Bigfoot.
Well, and to be fair, some of these could be Nephilim. Like some of these could be leftover Nephilim that live in the mountains.
Yeah, of course. This could be a remnant of maybe a situation where the gene pool of these Nephilim giants has gone so shallow where they now don't resemble a man at all, or very not a lot like a man. It's more like that they turned ape-like. And me and Brian had the theory that we don't really believe in evolution, but de-evolution absolutely could be a thing. That actually makes more sense based on even the idea of like with like the chaos theory, that things go from order to chaos, that it's less likely you would develop from a single cell organism to a man versus a man to something that resembles more of an animal-like creature.
Oh, we see that all the time. The more the degradation of the human mind has become less and less, to the point where, and then it could have also acquired certain traits as it was getting less and less. Just like, there's certain sort of traits that become apparent on certain people's deformities and disorders.
Well, even we always talk about the pigs too, like a domesticated pig or like a farm pig gets out of its pen, goes out in the woods, and it turns into a boar, and it starts sprouting tusks and dark black hair. To me, that's like totally bizarre. So that's something we see in nature. So that could absolutely be positive. Another theory could possibly be that when you think about movies or video games like Fallout, and you think about like what these 3-letter agencies and wicked men potentially are doing in the dumbs, and are they doing genetic experiments that could end up manifesting some kind of a humanoid-like creature, but is no longer resembles something we would recognize.
Well, I believe all of those are possible at the exact same time. Like, it's highly possible that there's a bunch of Esau's out there roaming in the wilderness, and
Esau's roaming around.
They're having to come closer to human existence to get food because maybe all of their food sources have ran out, or whatever the case is. But like, it's kind of like we talked about before, how all of the national parks across the United States, it's very well known that most of these national parks have cave entrances.
Okay, hold that thought, because we're going to get to a video talking about that. But yeah, well, even just to consider that the two things can be, again, lots of these things, all these things could be true at one time. But the idea that we know what happened to the deceased Nephilim spirits based on what the Book of Enoch says, that they became these unclean spirits. So that maybe some of them still are physical, but some of the ones that people are experiencing would be like, you're seeing this kind of shadow-like being moving through the woods, and it's literally a ancestor to a deceased Nephilim giant. And now, like, it's not physical, but you think it is.
Completely possible.
But before you guys say, I found another video that's maybe might point to these things actually being real and physical, because this video is in much better quality.
That poor kid's life flashed before his eyes. The other one probably took a dump in the water, dude.
Okay, I'm sorry I didn't watch the end. So that one ended up being not a legitimate Bigfoot.
Not as legit.
Sorry, not sorry.
I only watched the beginning. I mean, I thought it looked really real when he was first running out of the woods. The kids seemed to think it was real.
The fear was certainly real.
But yeah, so anyways, I want to discuss further Aaron's idea about national parks and potential gateways to the netherworld,
or at least Middle Earth.
Wait, before you do that, you mentioned something about the genetic deformities of things, and I just have to show you guys this video. But just give me a second because it's so fascinating. I found this this girl online that literally has this condition, and when you see this
not
condition,
gonna be something
bro,
I'm gonna be sick looking
no,
at.
it's not gonna make you sick. It's not gonna make you sick. You're just gonna be like, what the heck? You're gonna be like, that's crazy. So you won't get sick, but it's very fascinating. Okay, let me just share this.
Brian
with
likes
you.
to do on his other podcasts, make me watch people with like hobbit feet and weird claw hands and horns on their heads and stuff.
Okay, I recorded it and I gotta put it in the thing here. Hold on one second. I'm just putting it up. All right.
When Brian was showing me those videos, all those pictures of those weird feet, I was just like, barf.
You like the weird feet photos. What are you talking about? I thought you're like your favorite. That wasn't your favorite videos, bro?
I think people enjoyed my reactions to seeing the feet.
Well, this one's even better. Okay, so this is a thing that these are some of those things. Like I talk about, like I think gorillas are de-evolved Nephilim.
You say they're Nephilim with Down syndrome.
Nephilim with they're Nephilim with Down syndrome. I think that's what gorillas are, and I think that
maybe
I know it sounds
maybe worse than that, but
well,
yeah,
a little worse. Yeah, they've reverted to an animalistic instinct, and for whatever reason, God allowed them to continue.
Well, Brian,
to
you did
exist.
mention that there was tribes in Africa who believed that these apes were the boogeyman.
Yes, there's absolutely tribes that believe that, and it's very fascinating when you see this
because they were scared. They were scared when they heard that the white man caught a boogeyman and put it in a zoo.
They put the boogeyman in the zoo, and the boogeyman is the orangutan, which is an orange, red-haired for all intents and purposes, being, right? They're the red-haired giants, and there used to be
super
giant,
intelligent too.
Yeah, and there used to be giant. What was it called? Giant orangutans that used to exist. Okay, you ready, guys? You ready for this? Here we go. Let me just share this screen. Oh wait, let me just share screen again.
Yeah, was it King Louis and the Lion King?
Yeah. King Louis.
I want to be like you.
He's a
I
Nephilim.
want to walk like you.
That's the Nephilim
talk
one.
Like you too.
Exactly, that's the Nephilim want to be like you. Now check this out, guys. Look at
sound.
this. It's all right. There's no sound. I didn't record it, but look at her hands, bro. Look,
Oh my
dude.
gosh.
What?
Right? There's a condition, guys. It's a condition.
They're like mantis
Ectrodactylia.
hands.
Bro, they're like forked hands. They're like pig feet, right? Bro, look at that.
Oh my gosh. 4 fingers.
Dude, look, and it's split, like just the split hooves, bro. Is that not incredibly fascinating, JT? Are you getting uncomfortable?
All I know is the DNA difference between, I did a really deep dive on the DNA difference between humans and pigs, and I would not be surprised at all if pigs were never actually a natural creature. If pigs were
Maybe.
created from human DNA so that for people to eat.
Maybe, but that isn't it. This is like the Spock thing. Like, you know, Spock does live long and prosper, right? Do you know that that's a Jewish thing? That
But
they do
no,
this?
I remember seeing Leonard Nimoy talked about it. Yeah, it's a Kabbalistic thing.
Bro, and you mentioned the other day, apparently that, what's it, that Nanu guy? What's that one?
Morgan Mindy.
Bro, he does the same thing. He does this, but he does it sideways. Do you know what I'm talking about? That's like when I guess he does that symbol, I guess. So that this splitting of the hooves represents the split of the hooves of the animal. It means like not fully human in a way. But it's funny.
Is there a name for that condition?
Yeah, ectodactylia or something like that.
Did you look up to see how many living people are affected by this? Like what the percentage of the population is? I'd be curious to know.
I didn't look that up, but it's ectodactylia or something. I mean, dactyl means finger, right? So like, it means ectodactylia. I don't know, something like
You'd
that.
never be able to get gloves.
No, you'd have to make custom gloves. Like, I mean, it's nothing wrong with the girl. She's obviously mostly human at this point, but at the same time, like that's pretty fascinating.
She's mostly human.
Yeah, we're all mostly human at this point. You know,
that's a little bit of a backhanded compliment. There's nothing wrong with her. She's mostly human.
Okay, check this out.
We're all mostly human, bro. What are you talking about?
Ectodactyli, often called split hand, split foot malformation, or SHFM, is very rare. Estimated prevalence is 1 in 90,000 to 1 in 100,000 births.
Bro, she's a Gentile. She's a true Gentile. That's what she is. She's a more accurate Gentile to what they were back in the day. That's what she is. So she's you know, forgiven by Jesus just like the rest of us.
Some cases are inherited. Others occur sporadically with no family history.
It's when the Gentile gene comes through, bro.
It's pretty wild.
Dude, it's so fascinating. JT loves it when I bring these ones on the show, I'm sure. I got other ones if you want to know some other ones. I got some really wild ones.
I've got a whole slew of deformalities I can show you guys.
Save that for
when
the
you
Ancient
see
Ages
them
podcast, Brian. You know what is funny? I think we talked about this on this podcast, that Epstein, you know, he was looking into doing all kinds of weird genetic experiments, and he was talking about genetically modifying pigs to make them kosher, and it had something to do with changing the anatomical nature of their hooves, into turning them into some kind of kosher thing. Again, it trips me out that the whole idea of like finding this loophole to make this unclean animal clean, and it's not unclean because it's got these certain kind of hooves. It's like it just so correlates that these unclean animals have these same attributes. It's unclean because it does not disregard its own feces. That's why it's unclean. It's like certain birds are not unclean because they're not cool or beautiful, like an eagle. Like you're not supposed to eat eagles, not because they're protected and they're the national bird. It's because they eat dead things.
Well, it's the same in the Torah with the bottom dwelling crustaceans. It's not because they exist on the ocean floor. It's because of what they do. They scour the ocean floor and eat everything, all debris.
Well, that again, it's like it's like the whole idea of like you are what you eat, and so there's certain animals that even like bears are not. I guess I don't think they're not considered unclean, but what bears, depending on where they, do bear things, if they eat salmon all the time, then they probably taste pretty good. If they eat a lot of berries, if that's what their diet consists of.
Have you guys ever been to Alaska and had fresh salmon? Sidebar?
No.
I've had fresh salmon from other places, but not Alaska.
Dude, I when I was young, we played in a festival in Alaska, and one of their parents had caught a wild salmon, and they had smoked it for like 2 days. And dude, it took up those folding tables people use at like family picnics and like potlucks and stuff like that. It took up 2 of those tables.
Oh, they're big.
And
yeah,
it was huge, and it melted in my mouth. It was like, I've never had salmon like that ever since. Nothing tastes the same.
Yeah. But yeah, so then if you think about bears that are probably closer to like human society, they end up scavenging dumpsters like
They eat whatever they can get their hands
like
on.
raccoons do. So if you ate a bear that was eating trash, well, it would
You're
taste like
eating trash.
trash, and it would be trash for you. So yeah, again, that's why they're unclean. Okay, before Brian grosses us out with any more weird anomalies in people's genetics, let's talk about, again, back to Bigfoot and the idea that the maybe supernatural nature to these beings.
Do you think Bigfoot is an animal, or do you think Bigfoot is an interdimensional being that is going through portals in the national parks, and that's why they invented the national parks, was to protect these portals? Also, is that why Missing 411 exists? And Missing 411 is people that go missing in national parks under mysterious circumstances, or they never turn up ever again. They just disappear off the face of the earth, or they end up in places like miles away from where they started in locations they couldn't have got alone. Look at these maps. The top map is Missing 411. The bottom map is Bigfoot sightings in the United States. Do you see a correlation there? I'm not saying Bigfoot is taking these people by any means. All I'm saying is, if Bigfoot's going through portals, what if these people are going through portals too?
Aaron, I know you got a lot to say about that.
That's pretty telling. I mean, there's a reason why people go missing in national parks so often. There's a reason why there's areas in national parks we're not allowed to go into. And you can look it up. North America has more cave entrances than any other continent in the world.
Okay.
There's more cave entrances here in the United States than any other continent has in the world. That go who knows where. Like we can speculate all day long, but we have no idea where they go. But portals, underground travel, whatever the case is. But it could also be that Bigfoot is made up and they're using that as an excuse to grab and abduct these people. It could be so many things, dude. It could be so many things.
Well, this goes back to the idea again, like that you have these 3-letter organizations that are connected with Operation Paperclip and MK Ultra. So in the same way we talk about we don't really believe the alien narrative, that these are physical beings necessarily from outer space abducting people and taking them up on spaceships. So in the same way that lots of these quote unquote ufologists and people like that, they have a very strong connection to Skinwalker Ranch, which is more paranormal stuff like ghosts and Bigfoots and other cryptids. So these are literally the same people spinning all this BS. So what if, again, that's another cover story? The Bigfoot is like it's more like your layman's alien, right? So there's this alien thing in the woods, and then people have strange stories about what happened there, but maybe it's more about an MK Ultra type incident. And again, it's more connected with the portals are connected with these dumbs where there's doing weird genetic experiments where, of course, they could also be snatching people. What if the Bigfoots are people that were snatched and they're no longer their former selves?
It could be, man.
It's kind of like, again, what I was telling you about in the game Gears of War, that there's a story, so you have the locusts that come from inside the earth. And then eventually they start snatching humans and putting them in these pods. And now they no longer resemble anything that is a human anymore.
So you've seen the Lord of the Rings. You've seen
a few times.
You've seen the Hobbit and all of the editions of that. Where do all of the goblins and orcs and trolls come from?
Inside the earth.
Nephilim.
They all come from inside the earth. So let's take this one step further. Have you seen that movie? I don't know what it's called, The Gorge or something like that, where there's a guy that he works for the military and he's stationed in a tower, And then there's a woman that is from another country that's stationed in a tower across this giant ravine.
I've seen the trailer for that. Is that any good?
Okay. It actually is pretty good. And so they end up finding out that I won't spoil it for anybody, but there's a bunch of stuff going on down in the ravine that they don't want to get out into the general public. And a lot of it had to do with government testing. And a lot of it had to do with with people being genetically mutated and there being creatures and beings that they didn't want to get out. So wouldn't it make absolute and complete sense if some of this stuff either created by three-letter agencies or that already existed within cave dwellings, within inner earth, and they have their entrances throughout the world. Let's just say in America, they are located in national parks. And in these national parks, let's just say they've got 100,000 miles, 80,000 of which is not accessible to us. It's off limits. It's all sectioned off. So what if they know that these cave entrances go to somewhere crazy or these things can possibly come out, and they've got military present for the times when these things do come out, and they've got enough space to be able to suppress these things from getting out into the general public? That doesn't even sound far-fetched to me. Like, not even remotely.
No, not at all. I mean, I leave complete room for all kinds of things to be under the earth that we don't know about. And I always say that things that are native origin is the inner earth are aliens to us because they're not from here.
Completely.
Right. If they've always lived in the dark and they come out every now and then, then those things could meet your definition of an alien because they're not from the terrestrial earth that we live on.
Speaking of earth and darkness, I have a transition.
Wait, no. Let's not transition quite yet. Actually, I do have a video I think that goes right along with that last one I played.
Explaining the cave iceberg. First up, we got the missing 411 theory. This is just an online conspiracy theory that suggests that there are very eerie connections between the hundreds of missing persons cases and wilderness areas / national parks that have cave systems. So people like to claim that maybe there is some sort of feral people that live in these caves or cryptids that live down there that go and get people, but it's just kind of a spooky thing people like to talk about. Moving on to Forbidden Cave. This is referring to the Lascaux Cave in France, which is often referred to as one of the most forbidden places in the world. It was discovered in 1940 by these kids that were just trying to find their dog, and they accidentally just stumbled into this cave, where they found some of the most amazing Paleolithic cave paintings anywhere in the world that date back to like 17,000 years ago. This cave was closed to the public in 1963 after carbon dioxide and fungus from visitors started to damage the artwork. Moville Cave. So this was discovered in Romania in 1986 on accident. It's often described as the closest thing on Earth to an alien world because it has been completely sealed off from the outside world for an estimated 5 million years, where dozens of different animal species have evolved separate from anything else on Earth. What's crazy is life down here is sustained by only toxic chemicals in the air and water, not by photosynthesis. And the environment is so harsh that it is studied by NASA as a model for potential subterranean life on other planets. Cave of the Crystals. So this was discovered by chance in Mexico in 2000 while they were mine drilling. It's almost 1,000 feet beneath Earth's surface and contains giant gypsum crystal beams that are up to 37 feet long, which is massive. These crystals are made up of material that is so soft you can actually scratch it with your fingernail, and I mean, it just looks like a really alien place too. Deadliest Cave, Divers Cemetery.
What if, this is a hypothetical and I've never thought about this till right now, what if the planets, the stars that are set in the firmament as Genesis tells us, what if those are just coordinates? And what if when those coordinates align, they point to a specific place on Earth? And what if that kind of environment exists underneath the Earth in that location? Like, what if all the planets and the atmospheres that they say these planets have, what if those actually exist underground?
Well, it's like the idea of as above, so below.
Right.
So there's these connections. Well, it's funny, like when we talked about lands and you talk about lands past the firmament, I don't think that there's lands past the firmament, at least as far as like something that we or really anything can inhabit other than God and the holy ones who are there.
I lean towards that also.
But it is interesting when you actually see some of those maps that show like a land pass, like the wall over here, and some of them are named after planets.
Exactly.
In the, in outer, quote unquote, outer space. So yeah, that makes sense. It also makes sense that if you make a connection with that these false deities were angels and now their abode is in the earth. Because that's where they're.
Because did you see how crazy those different environments were? All underneath our feet? We would never have any clue that things look like that underneath us.
It's very naive to believe that they know what's under our feet. As big as the earth is, and again, you think about probably maybe the further down you go, maybe it's like there's less oxygen. Well, we have no idea, but again, we're talking about the conditions there. Like it could be toxic gases. Even again, going to Gears of War, when in the game they're going down into these caves to fight these locusts, and they're like, "Can you believe that this has been down here this whole time? This thing is massive." And then they go into certain sections of it where they have that emulsion stuff, that there's these fumes that would be toxic to humans down there.
There's so much we don't know, man.
Before you play your one video, I've got something that goes right along with this. This is
perfect.
This is flowing nicely here.
What would you do if I told you you could visit a castle that was believed to be built to seal the gateway to hell itself? Well, you can, and this is how. And follow for more travel recommendations like this one. It's called Hauska Castle, and what makes it really strange is that it was built in the middle of the woods, not on a trading route or protecting a city like castles normally are. And it doesn't have any normal castle things in it either, like a well. The local legend says it's because the castle wasn't built to keep people out, but to keep something in. Right under it, there is a pit so deep that you can't see the bottom. And locals reported that they could see things come out of it at night. These winged, half-human, half-demon creatures. The story goes that that's why they built the castle there, to seal this pit. Now, during construction, there was a prisoner who was sentenced to death, and they offered him a full pardon if they could lower him into the hole and he'd report back what he saw. He said yes, and they lowered him down. After only a minute, he started screaming. They pulled him up, his hair was white, he looked decades older, and he died later that night. And everyone was like, well, that's our worst fears confirmed. So they quickly built a chapel on top of the hole to seal it. And inside, they painted a mural of a left-handed centaur, which back then was basically a symbol of demons to keep them at bay. Now you can actually visit this place, and it's only an hour from Prague. And you can do tours where they take you inside the chapel and talk about the monsters beneath your feet. Share this with someone you want to go monster hunting with.
I'd be down to go in the hole. I'd be like, let's.
So Brian, so we got Brian now. He's set up to go on the space balloon. Then he's going to go visit Japan and go down the Super Mario pipe. And now he's going to go into the gateway
the
to
demon
hell.
hole.
I can just picture Brian hyping himself up like pre-workout style, like walking around the outside of the square, playing his song, Demon Erasers! And he's just like,
He's going to definitely have the flamethrower hooked up.
Oh, yeah, I'll bring my flamethrower, bro. My sword, bro. I got Jesus. I got flamethrower. I got sword. I'm fearless,
swords.
Bro. Nunchucks, sword, flamethrower, Jesus. I'm good. I don't care what demon is. I'm going, bro. I'm going. Tell me. Try to stop me, demon. Try to stop me.
Or get that glove from last week.
Yeah, the power glove.
The Chuck Norris balls powering it.
Yeah. Oh yeah, that one.
He'd probably come up and be like, all right, guys. I changed my mind. I do believe that they have physical bodies and physical forms. They're not all...
My hair will be all white.
Spiritual.
My hair will come out all white.
You look like Gandalf the White.
That'd be cool if my hair turned white. I'd be down. Bro,
but there has to be more stories about that. There has to be more people that have talked about that.
There is. I think didn't the Nazos take over that fortress apparently? I think that was one of the things that happened.
Oh gosh, well I mean I know that they took over more than one. I know that there's a famous one with Heinrich Himmler took over a place, and that's where they were doing probably all kinds of occult rituals.
Bro, they were probably doing something. Trying to talk to some demon. They took over, I think they took over a castle like that or something that had that similar, I don't know if it was exactly that one, but I remember hearing something about it. They took over a castle that had a pit to hell or something, and they were probably trying to talk to demons.
So
also, guys, did you hear that the rapture already happened? Chuck Norris was the only one that made it. I heard.
The last Chuck Norris joke.
The last Chuck Norris.
The question is, did that pit always exist, or were those things summoned? Have you guys ever seen the movie The Great Wall?
You know, I watched part of it. I didn't finish it.
Dude, the whole movie, The Great Wall, with Matt Damon's in it. There's a couple of other actors in it. The whole movie about the Great Wall is them defending themselves against these literal, like, demon, alien-looking creatures that come to attack them. And evidently this is something that happens every so often. But, like, the whole thing is, it's like a whole story that's depicted that has nothing to do with, like, what we were told in history. And it's so interesting, dude. It's like, where did they come up with this idea? Like, where did they... The whole battle was against these creatures that seemingly came from inside of the earth that were...
Well, that makes more sense to me than the mainstream story about the Great Wall of China.
It totally makes more sense, dude. It's not the best movie, but it's there's a lot to take away from there.
But wait a second. What if it was, because most of Revelation already happened, right? So we kind of are in that little season space. What if even the locusts came up out of the ground and they were actually these things, right? And so what if the locusts, they were sealing these tunnels off to keep the locusts from keep coming out of the ground? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, well, I mean, I think that people do just dismiss a lot of what a quote unquote medieval superstition as just that. But like these people, again, they're smart enough to build these super elaborate castles, but then they think that there's a gateway to hell at the bottom of it. It's like, they're not stupid people. Clearly they've got it. They're highly intelligent. What are you showing? Is this the monsters from the Great Wall?
Disturbing.
Yeah, locusts. Again, it's just like the locusts from Gears of War.
They look like they're smiling. I don't want to look.
They look like reptilians.
Is this a new movie or something?
I want to say like 2010s.
Yeah, it's got Matt Damon in it.
But like, dude, tell me, and look at these.
The reptilians, man.
But tell me that whole story doesn't go along with so many freaking stories we've been told, and also with scripture. I mean, dude, come on.
Well, I mean,
just like
China
They
being
didn't just make that up.
China being the land of the dragon. Obviously, these are dragon-like creatures, right? The
demons like to make themselves look bigger than they are all the time.
But no, I mean, but obviously the Bible does, in the book of Enoch, does give a lot of room for real monsters being real. So I always think it's funny that I've had to look this up more than one time because I almost didn't even trust my own memory. That the Great Wall of China is 13,000 miles long. I think I'm going to say it's like 13,270 miles long.
That's insane.
It is insane.
Ridiculous.
It's, I mean, like I said, it's something where I'm like, okay, I know I looked this up one time and I had to look it up again because I'm like, that is longer. Like, there's no way it could be that long. Sure enough, I looked it up again the other day. I mean, yeah, the United States is 3,000 miles across.
Dude, that wasn't for people. I don't care what anyone says. They didn't build that wall for people. Not that size.
Right. And then we often talk about that on these old maps, you have Grand Tartary, and then the turrets or wherever the places to shoot arrows at for a defensive position are aimed into China in a lot of cases. So if China is the land of the dragon, maybe that's what's going on. And it's like a situation where if this wall was to prevent against like foreign invaders, it's dumb. Like it makes no sense. They say that the wall's been built between like 1,000 and 2,000 years. That obviously eliminates any practicality to any defensive position for preventing the Mongols from invading China. Because I'm pretty sure they could go around it probably almost until it was done. Right? So that makes no sense to me. So what if it was a supernatural race of dragons or reptilians that they were fighting, and all of humanity decided to band together to make this thing? Right? It was like all hands on deck to build it. Or it was built by resurrected saints and angels. Because the other narrative makes no sense to me.
If Revelation did happen, I mean, it literally tells us that these things will be released from the pits and will kill how much of the earth?
Like a third of the people die in the book of Revelation.
Literal demons, though, like taking some kind of physical form. but like who knows what those things actually ended up looking like. But where these stories come from, man? Like they were told somewhere at some point in time and passed down. I don't know, man.
Didn't they say they used bodies to build the Great Wall of China?
Bodies?
Yeah, like the people that died, they just like mixed them into the mortar.
Put them in the body, or
They
put
just-
them in the wall?
They mixed them in the mortar and then put them
I
in
know
the
that's
wall,
the story of
supposedly.
Hoover Dam.
But how do we know?
Right,
that
yeah.
that's even
Hoover
true?
Dam, yeah. They had over 100 men lost their lives building the dam.
Really? And they just mixed them in the mortar?
What was the other? I know in, well, of course, in the 300, they built a wall with people, right? They said we're going to make our wall just a little bit higher. And it was all people. But there was other stories, I think, where they were using people like as mortar for their wall.
I mean, listen, if they're serving their god and human sacrifice is part of it all, then what better way to dedicate what they're building to their dark lord than to make these dead humans a part of the literal structure that they're building?
Well, right. And again, in the 300, that when Xerxes gathers this army to go against the Greeks, it's talking about all these weird things from the East, that all these monstrous things like the immortals. Remember? And so when they wear those masks, when the masks come off, they're these grotesque looking, I don't know, like reptilian looking things with fangs and just like the ugliest faces ever.
And that's not the only story, dude. So like what about also gosh, what's that show called? What's the HBO show called? The one that had Jon Snow?
Oh, you're talking about Game of Thrones.
Yeah, so like Game of Thrones, right? Like they're depicting all of these things that are super realistic based on the time frame and the way that things were actually done back then. Why did they have to throw that North Wall in? Why did they have to throw the whole story of the North Wall and people guarding the North Wall and talking about what lied on the other side of the wall at the north and then the dragons? And it's like, dude, if you take everything that we know to be true based on what history has told us is true, it's all in that show. It's all in that show. Like what reason would they have to throw it in there? There's so many movies and things that have been written, books and stuff like that. And I get it. People will be like, dude, it's just fiction, man. It's all just fiction. But it's like, from what I've learned and what I've discovered, the most fascinating things are not fiction at all. And what they
these people
try
are
to
not that
sell us as
creative.
fiction, they're really not, dude. They're really not. They're really not that creative.
They always say truth is stranger than fiction. And I've wondered that so of course the story of Game of Thrones comes from the George R.R. Martin books. Was it like the Song of Ice and Fire series? And so if you watch the show, like the first several seasons are good because they're all based on the books. And then supposedly George R.R. Martin has not finished the fourth book, and he's been working on it for like over 15 years now. Like the certain books were coming out in a very quick order, and he can't finish this last book. You do kind of wonder if the reason he hasn't finished these books is because he ran out of material, because maybe he was getting this story from, who knows, old manuscripts and things like that. You know, it's not like saying he's not putting some fiction in it, but
Well, they're channeling demons to get their information a lot of
But I
times.
mean,
They
the
don't
point
even
is
know
like
that they're doing it.
he can't finish this book. So like the people are thinking now, I mean, he's old, he's an old man, like he's never going to finish it. So maybe that's a
And even the-
situation where like he ran out of the source material just like the show did. And you see what if you guys watch the show, and I don't recommend you watch it if you haven't watched it already. When you guys
I
look
don't
at what the
either.
show devolved into by the end, it was a crap fest. It was a terrible show. The last season is actually the last few seasons are embarrassingly bad.
It's just debauchery and a license to just show the most.
But it's a crappy
insanely-
show though too. That at the end it's just dumb.
Yeah.
And so you see what happens when these people run out of the source material. So maybe that was a situation where George R.R. Martin realized that he was mostly a fraud, and he didn't have the source material to be able to back up his story. So he just didn't bother to finish it.
Well, and to Brian's point, even the demons only have so many stories to tell. Like, there's only so much they can go off of. There's only so much, like, even if they've been here from the beginning of time, there's only so much they can tell, and there's only so much that they can say. And so it's like even with music, there is nothing new. There is nothing new. That's why you see everything cycle. Everything goes back. They start combining old music with new music, and they have new combinations of stuff, and they change the combinations, but there is no songwriting pattern that someone could come out with now that hasn't been done before. It's all been done before. One thing that I thought was interesting, there's a line. So they released a spinoff show for the oh my gosh.
Wait, the House of the Dragon is one, and the other one is what is it? It's like something about 7 kingdoms or something.
So they released a new one, based on the Game of Thrones universe, called like the Night of the Seven Realms or something like that. And in the very end, so there's a guy that was just like trying to become a knight the whole time, right? It's a short series. There's a guy that was trying to become a knight, and then he had his squire. Well, his squire ends up being, he didn't know it at first, but his squire ended up being one of the sons of one of the biggest kingdoms there. Like one of the
Isn't
biggest
that kind of almost like
sons.
the story of Jon Snow?
Kind of, yeah. Kind of. And
right. They're recycling stories.
Recycling it. It's like the last line. He says something to the kid, and the kid was raised in a kingdom with wealth. He says to the kid, he's like, yeah, something about like in all 5 of the realms, I've never blah, blah, blah. And the kid goes, there's 7 realms. And he goes, no, there's not. There's only 5.
Suppose we could go anywhere in the 7 kingdoms, though I've never been to them. What?
There are 9 kingdoms, sir.
Of what?
The realm.
Are you mad?
Is that relevant?
There's 7 kingdoms of the realm, boy. Everyone knows that.
Then everyone is wrong.
Do you want to clout in the ear?
Crownlands, Westlands, Stormlands, Riverlands, the Iron Islands, the North, the Reach, the Vale of Arryn, and Dawn.
The kid knew the truth because he was raised by money and power. And the guy didn't know the truth. He was led to believe his whole life there was only 5 realms. But the kid knew that there was 7 realms because he was raised.
And the realms are...
So I just thought that was extremely interesting because I'm like, dude, like us lowly peasants, we only know about a fraction of what actually exists. There's so much more land and so much more going on that we don't have access to that we'll never be able to know about.
I want to share this video, and I know you have another one to play that you teased earlier. But I thought it's interesting, again, as Brian was talking about how we believe in this community that a lot of revelation has already played out. And some of the best evidence is old books, especially if it's an old Bible.
So check these out. 2 Holy Bibles, one's from 1875, the bigger one, and the smaller one's from 1869. And I want to read you something from the one from 1869, all right? So this is the New Testament, Wordsworth, Matthew to Acts, Volume 1. Now there was only one of these books. I got it from the thrift store for $4. It's leather and the front came off, unfortunately. So I think this is the original owner. As you can tell, 1869, the New Testament of our Lord and Savior Jesus Christ. In the original Greek, which is amazing. I just don't know how to translate that yet, but check this out. So this is interesting. Introduction to St. John's Gospel. About a half century, it is probable intervened between the publication of St. Luke's Gospel and that of St. John. In that interval of time, the apostles had gone forth into all the world preaching the gospel. And they had all fallen asleep except for St. John. So what do you think about that? That they had already done that all in their time.
How about that? See, an old book. And that's one of the things that a lot of people are futurists say, well, Jesus could come at any time, but of course he can't really come back until the gospel's been preached to all the world.
But JT, there's islands still somewhere in Africa that no one's gone to and preached the gospel.
Well, I mean, if you believe the Bible, it's already taken place. But I mean, I just
Isn't
thought that's
there a Bible
interesting.
verse that says it
footnote,
was
but
already spoken all of Asia?
Well, we already, we often quote Colossians chapter 1, verse 23, where it says that Paul's telling this gospel that you've heard has gone out to all creatures under heaven.
Yes.
And so that's according to Paul right then to the church in Colossus. So that's not so them putting that little bit of license, setting up this book, this Gospel of John, goes right along with what Scripture actually says.
Does anyone have a copy of a pre-1776 Bible? That would be fascinating.
Yeah.
Well, me and Moon Henry did a study once where we were looking at the Geneva Bible and its study notes, and the study notes had all kinds of things in past tense. It was talking about everything from the false prophet to the Antichrist to everything.
Yeah.
It was talking about it all in past tense.
It says the Pope is the false prophet.
It was like Pope Boniface and somebody else. It was mentioning all these events. Like, like people often point out in this community that if you read the Geneva study notes with that Bible, so that's a 1611 Bible, it says that, like, when you're reading the Olivet Discourse, it says within 50 years this prophecy came true. That's what it says in the Bible. And you're like, so this is an English Bible before the KJV. And it says that in there. So, I mean, again, it's like, whether you believe that or not, I just often point that out just to say that you think that the Protestant view today is the historic position of the church and it's always been agreed upon. It's not. And those Bibles are proof. I mean, like the Geneva Bible is like literally what they would call the Pilgrim's Bible, because they would have had that Bible when they were coming over on the Mayflower, we're told.
Did the Bible you were reading, was it like, was it an old version of it? Like an old Bible, or was it a scan, or was it a modern Bible?
Well, what we were using was scans. We weren't like reading straight out of it. He was showing the screenshots of it, but yeah, we were meant to do a part 2 of that. We have not done that yet, but we did.
It's just so hard to know what to trust, man. Because like every ounce of data that we have comes from a source we can't verify at this point. You know what I mean? So we really got to rely on discernment and the Holy Spirit, and in some cases, physical copies of books that are extremely old. But if we're ready for it.
Yeah, you got a video?
I do. Yeah, this is very, very fascinating given our current world standing right now.
So a few weeks back, my son, who's autistic, woke up and started saying that the world just changed. And when I ask him, what do you mean? He says, Jesus showed him the world and this world isn't it, and that the world is just different now. And I've tried to get him to explain how it's different, and all he says about it is well, it's just different. The world changed, and he's specifically talking about something, but he can't put words to it. And I think I've slept like 4 hours a night since. I don't know what it means, but he said it, and he's adamant about it.
Okay, so let me show you his part 2 then. He actually goes and talks to his son about it. And that video was just uploaded like a day ago. So this is
the
very
sun's
fresh.
right. The sun is
What's
right.
that?
The world did change. It changed completely.
It's changed a few times. I
What
guess
he
that's what
says
I
is
want to get
very
his point of
interesting.
reference. Like, has it changed from his lifetime or from before?
Hey, remember when you were telling us about how the world just changed?
Yep,
Can you tell me about that?
yep. First, the whole world changed and it turned our planet all white.
Turned it all white?
Our whole world.
The whole world?
That's the planet white
Just the planet?
from the outside.
Do you know how that happened?
No, it just changed. I don't know how.
What did it change? Just the color? Or did it change other stuff?
It changed other stuff. It changed other stuff for real. Read it.
So you were like way up, away from the world in a park? when you looked through the telescope?
No, I was just at the park that's high up a little bit, but not higher out at the wheel still. Whenever it's too high.
So you were high in the world still when you looked through the telescope?
Yep, I was at the park.
And you could see that the whole world was white?
Yep,
And it's gonna be white for how long?
for 30 days.
Infinity days. Alright.
What the heck do you make of that?
I think, again, we need to go fund Brian to go up in the balloon to see if he can go high enough to see if the Earth is now white.
But did you see how his son corrected him? Because he asked him if he was outside of the Earth looking at a telescope, and he said no, he was within the Earth. His son corrected him. He said, no, I was still within the Earth. In fact, he said I was at the park, but he was just way up above, within the Earth, looking down, and he saw that it was all white. And he corrected his son and said infinity days, but it sounded like his son said 30 days to me, but who knows?
Yeah, it was hard to understand what he said.
So what does that mean in your in the demon erasing world?
I have no clue. I there's two things that that come to mind. Number one is like, is he seeing something from the past? And the Lord showed him that Revelation, the world has changed, or is he seeing something that it's been happening? Because honestly, to be completely honest, I think we are changing the world right now. I think the collective awareness of everyone waking up to the truth about the small hats and all this other stuff, I think is actually affecting our reality. Like right now, people want to say like, "Oh, there's nothing you can do about it."
I actually agree with you.
Yeah, you can't fight it. No, we can fight it. I think we are fighting it, and I think it's actually affecting reality, and that's what's happening right now. And that's why they're doing this bombing and all. They're trying so desperately to stop us from changing what is happening, and it's happening, and you can't stop it. Like the Lord is moving, and people are waking up, and maybe they turn against us, or who knows what's going to happen, or maybe we just completely start our reality over in some capacity. But there is an economic collapse coming, and I see it already on the horizon, but I don't think it's going to go the way they want it to go. They want us to go into like evil mode, and like I don't think it's going that direction. Just like that game Raiders or whatever.
Arc Raiders. But it turning white is like very significant, right? Like white carries a lot of holiness, right? Like white reflects a lot of positive things in Scripture.
Like the
All of them
bride,
good.
the bride that's clothed in white linen. So obviously, my first take is he's obviously talking about the raptures this month or next month.
Oh my gosh.
the alien rapture that what's his name is gonna bring about.
But I mean, he didn't say he saw it turn black. He didn't say he saw it turn red. Like he said, he saw it turn white, and he didn't seem too concerned about it. The kid seemed pretty chill about it. So I'm going to take that as a sign, because I do agree with you, Brian, in the sense that more people are finding Jesus than ever. Truly finding Jesus. They're finding faith, and they're finding intimacy and relationship more than ever. More people are concerned with it than ever. But there's a lot of people on their paths to that. They're finding their way there. And it's starting with the exposure of the truth, because more people than ever, like I get so stoked when I see a video and then I look in the comments and I see people like from like major news publications or other places, and I go in the comments and people are just immediately going,
nope,
that's not real.
yeah,
that's not real. You guys are lying.
It's so funny.
I love it. Dude, that didn't happen a couple years ago.
So NASA just came out recently and said that they're going to build a base on the moon. Do you guys see that news come out?
No, but I can only imagine the comment section is full of people that know the truth.
Bro, I did a video just now with Jake Shields, and he clipped it where it was like me talking about nukes are probably fake, and I'm like thinking, oh great, this is gonna be terrible. Bro, I looked through the comments just a little bit ago, and it was all these people were like, you're an idiot, and then all the responses were like, yeah, right, and that's why the footage that you've seen, the car disappears. Like everybody's just like they're like, yeah, oh yeah, that's nuclear power runs off of steam, and I've got people in there that are just like ripping these people that are saying this is dumb, like the pieces, and I'm like, I'm kind of shocked. I'm like, wow,
people are aware, man. More people are aware than ever before.
Dude, it's crazy.
Maybe
Were you guys-
maybe that is a symbol of the awakening of people.
Were you guys familiar with Operation Pogo and Operation Zephyr? Did you guys ever look into those?
I
or
don't
talk
think so.
about
No,
those?
I've never heard of those.
I've heard Pogo, but not Zephyr. I don't know about that.
Okay, so there is a guy, I don't remember his name, you can look him up, but he was married to like an executive. Like his wife was like the CFO of Google or something huge like that. I'm sure I've got some of the details wrong, but he was heavily connected. I think his name was Sam something. He was heavily connected. He got his hands on these documents that talked about how they were going to finalize things. And he had black cars out in front of his house that were like keeping an eye on him. And he made audio recordings. You can still go listen to his own audio recordings. And he talks about these two projects, and they're two different things. But ultimately, he was talking about in these projects, they talked about how they were planning on getting rid of everyone that was awake. He talked about how they were tracking everybody through the videos that they watched on YouTube, through the things that they liked, the comments that they made. They were tracking everybody. And their plan originally was to go around and physically collect everybody and take them to concentration camps and do all of this stuff with them. But he said the plans changed because too many people were waking up. Too many people were understanding. He was like, their original plan, they had to modify it and change it because way too many people were onto them and started realizing what they were up to. He got killed
right now.
Well, no, I think of course it's happening just in the sense that
I think they wanted us to be waking up to the Jays, to the small hat people, and everyone woke up to it. And it's like now they're like, what do we do? Like I think they're just losing control.
Where do you go from here?
Well, I think it's a situation where that they want to push a certain agenda, and I feel like that with the way that it's accelerated since 2020, I think it's so obvious, but I think that comes with its pitfalls for them is the fact that because it is accelerated, it's more obvious. So more people are aware of what they're doing. Because again, if it's slowly dripped out and it's, again, it's like the slowly cooking the frog. I think now it's like they turned up the heat so much. It's like the boiling where like people are jumping out of the pot.
Oh yeah. It's like the left too. Like they created the left and then now the left is turned on them. It's like so funny to watch. It's like you created these monsters and now they're eating you guys alive. It's like, it's hilarious actually. It's kind of funny.
Yeah. Yeah. They're creating the noose that's going to hang themselves. Remember, they thought they're making us stitch our, basically create our own noose.
I think that's exactly what's happening right now, honestly. And it's kind of comical to watch how many people are just like, yeah, no, we're waking up to. And bro, there was somebody literally this Trump supporter chick. I just saw this post. Somebody shared with me. And it was like, she was like saying there's a coordinated effort of all these people trying to attack Donald Trump and ruin the left and ruin the right and the conservative movement. And it's like, no, this is not a coordinated effort, dummy. We're just everyone's just realizing what's going on. And it's like, they're so holding so tight to their Trumpisms that they can't even recognize that this is so evil and wrong. And they think they're literally thinking there's some coordinated special attack happening to the conservative movement because no one supports Trump anymore because we all think it's freaking evil. We see it. And they have to go to such a far extent of conspiratorial like beliefs that it's like they think we're all coordinating an effort against Trump. And it's like, no, we're not. We're all aware, bro. We're waking up to the truth. Okay. And everyone's waking up right now. It's hilarious.
Well, there's so many stages to waking up that if people are still having political arguments.
Right.
Dude,
Yes, exactly.
I don't even know where to start with someone like that.
Dude,
I really don't.
Well, yeah, it's the certain people, yeah, they can be snapped back into it. It's like, well, but what about the midterms? And you're just like, who cares about the midterms?
Yeah.
Like what they're going to, the agendas that they're going to push forward. And to be perfectly honest, I still get it a little bit. I mean, because the government we got right now is horrible. And so, but I don't know that getting out and voting would have changed anything. Or probably whatever agenda they're pushing today would have been the one they were going to push regardless of which candidate had won the Virginia governor's race. But the truth is, like, when people still talk about politics in the way that voting's going to matter, another election's going to matter, no, I'm sorry.
No, man. I want to teach people how to fight in the spirit. That's it. That's all I want to teach people how to do, because that's the only place we're going to make any front. I do agree with Brian, though, that sometimes fighting in the spirit is getting out there and doing things that God calls us to do physically. And because there are people out there that are getting into office and doing things not because they want to, but because they feel called to, and not even necessarily to make a change in terms of changing the government, because that's not going to happen, but just to bring awareness, and help people understand and wake people up. But yeah, at this point, if you're not fighting in the spirit, if you don't know how to fight in the spirit, if you're not praying to fight in the spirit, please learn how. Please.
Amen.
Please.
Amen. Well, that's a great place to leave it. Anyways, guys, I really appreciate you guys watching. And if you guys want to watch these episodes early and uncensored, please support this podcast over on Patreon. Lots of new content weekly, more than one time a week, actually. And also, if you guys want to potentially make some content, if you guys are looking for coaching, check out the Echoes of Truth Network. We're doing coaching for people who are involved in potentially making a podcast, making reels on social media, whatever. If God's given you a message and you don't know how to share it, we can help you do that. Also, if you guys want to support this podcast, check out Modern Roots Life, the sponsor of this podcast. And regardless if you can do none of those things, I really appreciate you guys just watching and you're commenting, like, sharing, subscribing. Let us know what you guys think in the comments. Let us know what you guys want to talk about. We appreciate you guys. You guys are the best. We love you guys. God bless you and see you next time.